Hey, I'm Courtney.
And I'm Amanda.
And this is A Nefarious Nightmare, now officially partnered with Darkcast Network.
We cover true crime and the paranormal. We raise awareness about the senseless acts committed against victims. We won't go easy on the offenders, but show serious empathy to the victims.
And sometimes we dive into some weird topics outside of true crime, like the paranormal or even conspiracy theories.
Our listeners are definitely the best, and we are their biggest fans.
So join us. Come on in. All are welcome. Let's dive into these cases. You can find us on any podcast platform and on YouTube. Be sure to find us, hit subscribe, and share us with your friends.
We do have great life advice, such as don't be a Richard.
Yes, and wear deodorant. We don't want to smell you.
But all are welcome to A Nefarious Nightmare.
Please be advised deals with some heavy topics and subjects, such as mental health, suicide, sexual assault, and more. Please listen at your own discretion and please seek professional help if you are struggling. Thank you and enjoy the episode. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Nuggiez. I know this one's a bit late. I'm sorry, to be honest. I got 3 podcasts running and work is flat out. I am just running behind. But I wanted to speak to you guys about unexpected triggers as well as expected triggers. Without giving too much detail away, because I'm not too sure how much I can say, but I was recently a guest on a podcast where we were discussing sexual assault and traumas and stuff along those lines. And, you know, I've spoken majority of the stories and scenarios on here. I've discussed with other people, not a huge amount, but I have. And I always tell myself, you know, it's fine, it's in the past, it is what it is. You know, you might get triggered here and there, but nothing too bad. But I went into some detail. I dug deep for this podcast interview. As I said, I'm not going to say too much because I don't know when the episode's going to come out. I don't know what's released at the moment. I'll promote it as soon as it is out, but it's really interesting how you tell yourself that you're built, you know, strongly and that you're resilient to things and that, you know, you've gotten through so much, you're able to just talk about it, and then you do, and everything comes flooding back. I mean, I agreed to do it, so I put myself in the firing line. I knew there was a possibility of, you know, me being triggered. But honestly, I've spoken about it a fair amount on here to the point where I thought I might be triggered slightly, but not to the extent that I ended up being triggered. And what I mean by triggered is that I sat there and I did the interview and I completed it. And after I sort of just sat there and I was like, wow. For me, and the reason I say for me is because there are people out there who've been through a hell of a lot worse than I have. I will never say that someone's experience is worse or less than someone else's. Everyone's experiences are their own, and how you react is all personal. It's not a competition to see who's got the most trauma, but I sat there and I was like, I have gone through some serious shit. I have actually really come through quite a lot, which you would think would be a good thing. I'm sitting there going, you know, I'm almost building myself up in a way. However, the more I thought about it, the more I started, like, a snowball effect. Like, it would start off positive, like, wow, you've gotten through some shit, look at you now, you know, look at what you're going through and where you are. And then that turns into, well, why did you go through that? Why me? Why was I targeted? Why was I part of this? Why couldn't I just get up and walk away when I wanted to? You know, like I said before, I've touched on it a few times here on the podcast, but especially when I had that incident with the trade out the front of my home, which I believe the episode was Fight or Flight mode. Go check that out if you don't know what I'm talking about. But I had an ex that I was with for about a year who literally controlled everything. I wasn't allowed to leave the room. I wasn't allowed to speak to certain people. I wasn't allowed to go out without their permission, all while they were out there cheating on me while I stayed at home doing what they asked me to. And then it just sort of got to the point where it was like I would try to fight it, and fighting then turned into physical fighting, and you know, you get, like I said on the episode, I'm very thankful that I was never hit on the face. But arms and legs and stomach, like, I've had bruises. I've been through some serious shit when it comes to guys. And it's just mind-blowing that after all this time, it's been at least maybe 11 years, 12 years since I've been in that sort of physical scenario. I've been in a few verbal, but physically it's been about 12 years, and for it to still have such a hold on me, it's just absolutely incredible. And it really goes to show just how much words and scenarios and abuse in general, like everything under the arch of the word abuse, really sticks with you. And it really does affect you, and it really does affect your psyche. And, you know, of course I knew that. Like, I've been to therapy multiple times and different people and whatever else, but it's just, I always like to think of myself as such a strong person, and then I also feel that I break really easily at the same time. And it's a very conflicting thought, because you're strong for getting through the scenario. However, the scenario fucking breaks you. And a word, an image, event, a person can always be that straw that breaks the camel's back. It can always be that trigger that comes back to haunt you. A smell. I mean, we all talk about, you know, our go-to things when it comes to helping relax and helping calm down, but at the same time, on the other side of the coin, there's all the things that trigger you. And it's just really, it's been a really difficult mental state for me personally to be able to understand how or why I'm feeling the way I am. And that's always been an issue for me. I've never always been able to fully understand why I feel a certain way, and that's, you know, a lot of that comes down into depression and why a lot of people have a lot of mental issues. But this really got to me. Like, I went down a deep depression hole for about 2 or 3 days where I was like really hit by it. Like, it lingered for a while, but hit for the first 2 or 3 days from the moment I ended the interview till about 3 days later. And it was just, I really didn't think that was going to happen. And then I sort of sit there and I sit back and I go, well, why didn't I think that would happen? Everything else fucking triggers me. You know, and then you start, you know, pulling yourself apart. Like, you're not that strong. Why would you think that this wouldn't affect you? Why would you think that you could get through this okay? And then that then turns into anger. And I just got really angry at the end of it. At the end of the, 2-3 days, I got really angry towards the people who had done what they had done to me and put me through these altercations, not indications, and put me through these scenarios. And anger is really, it's a strong emotion. It can really take a hold of you. And I'm the kind of person that can quite easily go from 0 to 100 very, very fast. Now, what I mean by that is my emotions can go up really high, really fast. I do not get physical very fast. It takes a long time for me to get to the point where I want to be physical with someone. But I can hold a grudge and I can get very angry very fast. And I'm aware of that. I've always been aware of that. It's, really been a downfall of me a few times in different relationships. But I got so angry and I just sat there and I was like a shell. It's like if you'd walked in a room and seen me there, you'd see me sitting there in the corner. And you'd see a human, you'd see what resembles a person sitting there. But you could have spoken to me and I was just empty. I had relived everything I'd gone through. I had spoken about everything I'd gone through, and I do not regret it for a minute. The overall project it was for, I'm actually really proud to be a part of. It's just unfortunate as for those circumstances, but it was just really, really hard to relive everything, to think about everything, to go into detail about everything, to then talk about the people, to talk about my mother and the way that she ignored a lot of it as much as she knew about it. I just got so angry. I got so angry at all of them, at every person that had been in and around me at that time. And then I got angry at myself. I got angry at myself because then I started blaming myself. I started saying, well, why did you let it happen? Why did you let it go as long as you did? Why didn't you get up and walk away? And I tell you what, that's the biggest fucking question and most asked question anyone has for you when they find out that you've gone through something like that. Why didn't you just walk? And theoretically, hypothetically, it should be that simple. We should be able to get up and walk away. But when you love someone so much, and you want to make it work, and you want to do everything for that person and make that person's life absolute amazing, and want to be a part of it, you start telling yourself, well, it's not that bad. You start telling yourself, well, there's other people out there who've had it worse. Oh, this is just, a bump in the road. This will, will eventually get better, or it's not as bad as I'm making it out to be. And then a week turns into a month turns into 6 months, and then the next thing you know, you're with someone for a year. And then you look back over your time after you finally managed to get out of that situation, and you realize, hold on, that wasn't a bump in the road. That is what they're like. That is what they're like all the time. They're manipulating you. They're gaslighting you. And that's not okay. But if anyone out there is listening to this, I understand that it is not easy to let go. That does not make you a failure. That does not make you any less of a person. And it doesn't make you weak. It's taken me 30 years to realize that I'm not a complete failure. I say complete because there are some things that I do fail at. It's human. It's what we are. It's what we do. But if at all anyone is out there listening to this who's going through, been through anything similar, and can relate to this in any way, 1, you're not alone. And 2, you're not weak. These people, if you can even call them that, these monsters, prey on people. They manipulate you. Just know that you can get out of this. You can survive. And there's absolutely a light at the end of that tunnel. And it's so incredibly hard for me to sit here and say that. Because there are days that I don't believe that about myself. There are days that I feel like maybe I am the only one, or maybe I was stupid, or maybe I'm really weak. And you will have those days. We all have bad days. We all have good and bad days. Sometimes the bad are really bad. Sometimes it's the worst you can ever go through. But that's the thing, is we get through it. We can get through it. I don't want anyone to listen to this and think, well, it was me. And I don't want anyone to sit here and think any less of themselves because of what they're gone through or going through. We are strong people. And this goes for absolutely anyone. I've heard the argument that this happens more so to women than men. I don't give a fuck about that. Everyone gets manipulated and everyone goes through their own journey and everyone can go through some bad times. I'm not playing that shit. I'm not playing that game. This goes out to absolutely everyone. But we are human and we are strong. And I hope this reaches at least one person and it really sinks in. Because this is the shit that I needed to be told when I was younger. And that is the whole purpose of this podcast, is getting it out there. So it might reach one person, one single person, and make a difference. It's as much my own therapy as it can be for you guys. And I thank each and every one of you for following along the journey. The DMs and private messages I've received because of the podcast, the friends I've made along the way. I thank you all so much for listening. And that sort of concludes this episode. So, once again, thank you for listening. My name is Ebony. This is the Sweet and Sour Nuggiez podcast. And you'll hear from me in 2 weeks. Have a fantastic day. And keep shining bright. Bye, guys. Hi, like what you heard? Need a bit more Nuggiez in your life? Then come follow us on all our socials. That's at SSNUGGIEZ pod on all socials. Linktree is linktr.ee/SS Nuggiez pod as well. Come listen to us on all platforms, Spotify, Apple, Good Pods and more. Come on over, we always need an extra hug. Listener discretion is advised. This is not for the faint of heart. We deal with all topics, so just be aware. But come on over. You're always welcome.